Welcome back. Took a bit of a hiatus, but we're back for just a little check-in. How we doing? The world seems a little extra crazy these days. If you're watching this shortly after posting, we recently had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A girl was stabbed on a bus and she died. Another shooting at a school. And if you watch this at any point in the future, the likelihood of some tragic event happening on the world stage, it's pretty likely that will have happened. So I've been thinking, how do we move through this? How do we navigate this world when there's so much noise, there's so much chaos, and it looks like things are just getting worse? You hear people say, oh, Jesus must be coming back. This surely is end times. But is it? Is it any worse than it has been before? Or do we just have phones, so now we're able to see all these tragedies happen right after the event or live, unfortunately? Is it any worse? Why hasn't it gotten better? What are we supposed to do? How do we navigate these times and actually, one, survive, keep our sanity, and is there anything that we can do to help? And I think that, we're all unique individuals. I think we have different roles to play. Some people are meant to be, if you want to say, like the energy holders, the vibration of peace holders, because we need some people who are going to be radiating that out in these crazy times. So this could look like monks, meditators, mystics, that type of person who just sits and holds the vibration of peace. And that's not everyone. There's other people who are meant to be in the middle of the action, who are meant to protest, who are meant to perhaps go into politics, try and create new laws to create some sort of safety or structure in this society. And there's other people who are meant to be investigators, who are meant to dig in, figure out what's really happening, because not all of us can just sit around and hold the vibration of peace. That's not realistic. We need some people who are going to be truth tellers. We need some people who are going to figure out what's really happening and try to do something about it, because I do believe that an important element to change is becoming aware of what's actually happening, becoming aware of the manipulation, of the way that our emotions are being played, of the way that perhaps events are controlling our emotional state. Because when we're in states of fear or chaos or feeling lost, depressed, anxious, we don't make good choices. We don't see things clearly. The world feels like a threat, and so we're going to perceive more threats everywhere that we go. We're going to perceive our neighbors as a threat. People who look like a certain way are a threat. People who hold a certain political belief as a threat. And I think that there's this thing going on, which maybe it's always existed, where, and this is all about maintaining power structures, is two people can have totally opposite views of the world, but feel like they are good, feel like they are on the side of good, feel like their belief in how they see the world operating right now and how they think it should be fixed, whether that's more government, more laws, perhaps less government, less laws. They have different ways of seeing that we can correct things. Is one of them right? Is one of them wrong? Well, the media, politicians, whatever this force is in the world that's trying to keep us separated surely wants us to think that way, that one side is right and one side's on the side of God or holiness or goodness, and the other side is on the side of the devil. But people are so much more nuanced than that. You notice this in political rhetoric. They want us to be on opposite sides. They don't want us to be able to have conversations with people who think differently than us. And when I say they, I mean, maybe it's the power structures that exist. I'm not really sure who the they is. But when we see people get on the news and immediately start to blame, oh, it's the radical left, or it's MAGA, or it's all these things. And then you're supposed to group in anyone who says this one phrase or who voted for this person into this lump, whichever lump they want you, and stereotype that entire group to mean, if they say this, if they voted for that person, then that means they believe all of these things. They must wholeheartedly believe and defend all of these things. And if you're on the other side, they are your enemy. But if we look at things honestly, who I voted for, who you voted for, you probably don't believe everything that they say or everything that they stand for. You just did your best with the options that you were presented. Now, some people are going to say you shouldn't even bother voting because elections aren't really real. It's all rigged. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But still, vote. There's no harm in it, at least. But I think that we can start to hold a posture of openness towards people with differing beliefs. And they'll say that the shootings that happen, all this violent behavior that's enacted, it's not because of intense political rhetoric, or it's only the intense political rhetoric on one side. But why do we buy into that? Why do we fill into these roles that they want us to be, that we make the other the enemy? Why can't we start to soften and have actual conversation? I don't know about you, but I know a few people in my own personal world who will say, I'm open to discussing. I'm open to having conversations to hear what you have to think. But you know that they're not. You know that they're not. Because they're just going to wait for their turn to speak. They're not really going to listen to what the other side says. And then they're going to input what they believe is right, or what, this is according to them, what they know is right, what they know actually this country needs or the world needs. Then you have other people that say, I'm not even open to having a conversation. I don't even want to know what you think, because I know I'm going to be so appalled by it. And when we have these intensities, we anchor in, some of us, we feel like we have to anchor in further into our beliefs because there's an enemy, there's a threat. And when there's an enemy or a threat, it's almost like we need to feel more sure about what we believe to protect ourselves from that thing, because rarely are we granted the opportunity to expand on our thoughts, expand on a sentence that we said. Is that really what you mean? Do you mean something a little bit differently? But we're in such an intense political and divisive climate that we almost feel like it's unsafe to question our own perspective, our own belief. And I think that that is a tactic that is being deliberately deployed. They don't want you to think critically about what they're telling you. They want you just to accept it because there is an imminent threat and we have to defend against this. Democracy is under threat. The world is under threat. So we have to anchor and we have to make these changes now. We have to do this now. Everything is really intense. I don't know about you, but I just feel this world can feel overwhelming. Partially why I kind of took a little break, because I just needed time and space to get clear. Also, there was personal life things going on, but there's so much noise. There's so much political noise on issues that maybe shouldn't even be politicized, like innocent people dying. Why does that have to be political? Why is it that we have people on all sides arguing that, oh, those deaths of those innocents is justified, or that person deserved to die because they had hateful beliefs? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Can we just take a step back for a second and acknowledge that we're defending the deaths of innocent people right now? Is there no room for questioning? Is there no room for re-examining things, for not holding on, I defend this country, absolutely. I stand with these people, absolutely. Can we say, yes, I stand with these people, but maybe that government is doing something that is wrong? What's so wrong with that? And why is it that there are powers that don't want us to be able to converse? Why is it that we're just being pushed further and further into these different sides? And I love a good conspiracy, because a lot of conspiracy theories actually have turned out to be true. I love trying to figure out, who is the bad guy? What's going on here? How do all these puzzle pieces fit together? Is there a deep state? Is there a country who's trying to take over our country? By the way, it's berry season and I sit under a ficus tree, so there are a lot of bugs right now trying to eat the berries. So if you see me wiping my face, it's because there's little bugs. Okay, back to it. I love figuring out the puzzle pieces. I love investigating. I love looking at history. I love looking at declassified CIA documents. But the one thing that I make sure that I do is I don't get lost in it, that I don't hold on absolutely to think that I have the full picture of anything, because the more that I learn, the more I know that I don't know. That's a really common thing. And I think anyone who's an honest, is this the right way I want to say it? Because I don't want to be disparaging. People who are genuinely trying to get to the truth are open to new information always. If you're not open to new information, I would say that suggests that you're in a state of fear. Fear creates the need for certainty. In an uncertain world, that is the most illogical thing. You got to always be open to more, to changing your perspective or what you think is really happening based on new information that's gathered. But we also have this climate where if you change your opinion, somehow that's a weakness, or somehow you must have been manipulated. That's why you changed your opinion. There's no room even for just personal growth. It's such a strange time that we live in. And I wish and I hope that all of us can start to move through the world with more of an open posture, with acknowledging if you are actually open to having conversations or not. And it's okay if you're not, but be honest about that. And then if you really want this world to be a better place, if you want to feel more connection with other people, then work on that. Work on acknowledging I may not know everything. What I do know is that I care about my fellow humans. What I do care about is there being peace and love in this world. And so I am going to work on myself so that I can hold multiple perspectives, so that I can at least even hear them. And that when I get in a tough conversation where, maybe I'm working on being able to hear different opinions, right? And so when I enter a conversation like that, first of all, I can let the other person know, I'm working on this. I'm not good. I think I have the right answers. I really want to hear what you have to say, but I might shut down. And then when you notice yourself starting to get hot, maybe a little bit sweaty, when you notice that fear or anger come up, see if you can take a breath in the moment. See if you can overcome that intensity that's going to want you to lash out or defend or turn off your ears to not be able to hear what the other person's saying. The best thing that we can do right now is ask clarifying questions with someone that we disagree with. Is that what you think? Is that what I think? But you have to ask those same clarifying questions to yourself. Can you create a sense of safety within your own body and with your own mind that you're capable of doing that? That's one thing. I also think it's important that we do find out who is it that's creating this division? Who is it that is perpetuating this darkness that we see, that's perhaps orchestrating the events that are happening in the world? And not everyone is meant to look into things on that level. Definitely not. And even if we do find out who the bad guys are or who's to blame, what are we going to do about it then? I do believe in justice. I do believe in people being held accountable for their actions. And at the same time, I also believe in radical self-responsibility. For us looking at ourselves, how are we looking at the world around us? Do we have compassion? Because no doubt, there is deception and manipulation going on. We see that in, Operation Mockingbird, which had at least that we know of, 400 U.S. journalists on the CIA payroll side, assets, that sent their articles. And there's clear evidence that they still do this today for approval. Is this narrative okay? Does this align with what the CIA wants out in the world right now? We are being manipulated. That's a fact. We've seen how they have infiltrated social media, how they mess with the algorithms, how they hide certain accounts, or they deprioritize some things, they prioritize other things. So knowing that exists, and if there's any questions, let me know in the comments, because I will make videos on this and I plan on doing this already. But can we understand that someone that we adamantly disagree with, or that we think holds an absolutely false belief, one, hold the posture that maybe there's something true in what they're saying, but also if they really are cheering for the deaths of innocents, can we understand that there has been some sort of manipulation, some psychological operation, if you want to call it that, that is making them think that way, that's making them believe that way? And can you have compassion? Because this is intelligence agencies that are doing this. This is their only job, to collect information, how to manipulate public, to support them in events that they want to carry out. This is their specialty. So can you have compassion for people who are falling under the spell of what we're being told, of the lies that are being so carefully crafted? Can we hold space for that? Can we have compassion for it? And it's not like you go around pointing fingers like, oh, you're deceived, you're an idiot, you're a fool. No, that's not going to help. It's not going to help. Overall, can we move through the world with more compassion, more kindness, more openness, that maybe I don't have it all figured out? Can I also understand that everyone has a different role to play in the world? We're all built differently. Some people are going to meditate. They're going to hold the vibration of peace. You can't blame them for not looking at the news. You can't blame them for not getting into the nitty-gritty or not wanting to. Let them play their role. Let them do that, because we need that love. We need that peace vibration that's present. We can't have everyone down in the details. Can we understand that some people are here to investigate the truth, to try and put the puzzle pieces together? Some people, we're always going to have conspiracy theories. We're always going to have people who are investigative journalists. Can we allow them to do that and not judge them? We are going to have people that protest, that are loud on the street. Can we allow them to do that? Can we not judge them for wanting to do that, to voice their opinion, their views? And can we also understand that above all, yes, justice is important. Yes, perhaps new laws are important. But even if all of those things happen, even if all the bad guys who are manipulating events get put in jail or whatever happens to them, the world's not really going to change unless you and I change on an individual level. There's a personal responsibility that needs to happen. We need to be accountable for how we move through the world, how we view others, how we communicate with other people, how we work through things like conflict. And at some point, maybe we realize that all the structures and the systems that exist right now, which is kind of where I lean, they're corrupt. Can we change them? I don't know. Are we going to wait for them to change? Maybe. But maybe one good thing, and maybe this is another role of a chunk of humanity, is to create new systems, to become really powerful entrepreneurs or philanthropists that create new businesses that give jobs to people who are disenfranchised, who have been left behind. Can we take more responsibility, not wait for a government or someone to come and save us, but to do something about it ourselves? Can we create businesses? Can we create organizations that lift people up? Can we look after our neighbors? Can we maybe not get so caught up by what's happening on our phone? That's one thing that's become absolutely clear to me, is social media is a death trap. It fractures my mind. It gets me so caught up in the world events that I forget what I'm here to do. I get so overwhelmed by all these pieces of information. Oh, I want to look into that. I want to look into that. I want to look into that. So many things that I just do nothing because I get paralyzed by all the information. And so maybe part of taking personal responsibility is being on our phones a little bit less, scrolling less on social media. And that is an addiction, baby. That's a hard thing to break, but I think it would be great if we could do it. So can we understand that everyone has a different role in this world? Can we understand that there are incredible manipulation tactics that are going on, and hold compassion for people that we think are deceived? Can we take self-accountability, recognizing that we have also perhaps been deceived? Can we hold a posture of openness to be open to the other possibilities? Can we work on ourselves so that we can be open to the possibility of something else being true, of us not having absolute certainty in an uncertain world? Can we start to cultivate loving kindness and loving awareness, compassion within ourselves, so that we can then more likely be able to extend it to other people? These are the things that I've been pondering. So this was just a little stream of consciousness to get us back started again on the show. But I appreciate you tuning in and listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, what do you think the solution is for the state of the world today? What do you think? Do we each have different roles? Do we all have a responsibility to do one or two things? What do you think? And maybe in the meantime, just for this week, we slow down a little bit, we scroll a little bit less. Maybe we ask ourselves every day, every moment throughout the day, or when we start to feel something, am I going to add more aggression to the world today, or am I going to add more love? That's what I've been asking myself. Am I going to add more aggression to the world, or am I going to add more love? And maybe we recenter on the love. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you on the next one.